Hey guys, Joseph Baba Ifa here, coming at you with a new video on Eshu Laroye. And for all the people who haven't had the opportunity to, or if this is the first time you're watching our channel, thank you so much. And be sure to press that subscription button or that subscribe button, coming out with new videos all the time with some fresh material. And we're going to try and give you some right now on Eshu Laroye. This Eshu is probably the most notable. It's probably the most popular. I think within the Afro-Cuban tradition, the majority of people have this Eshu when they're going through their hand of Ifa process or receiving their warriors, right? Or Ajagun, as they're known. So what we're going to do is there's a bunch of information online already on him. And what we're going to do is try to delve in and see how we can clarify some things or even provide some new information to kind of, show you how complex this Eshu is, regardless of whatever information has become kind of staple from a public knowledge standpoint. So the first thing we always get into is the name, right? When you look at Laroye, it's usually spelled Laroye. Now, when we kind of break that down possibly into proper Yoruba, there's a couple translations that I was able to come up with, right? So Laroye, once again, could be a compound word of a couple different words or phrases, and the first being la, which means he who comes with, or he who arrives. Ro, also making reference to the arrival aspect of things. And oye, which could be referring to title, right? So this Eshu, known as Eshu Laroye, could be making reference to the Eshu that comes with title, right? Kind of regarding him and showing him as a leader Eshu, or an Eshu that is going to be popular or going to be very widely reincarnated or given to people, and as such it has been that way. The word oye also can mean intelligence, right? And you could say he who comes with intelligence, or the owner of intelligence, not taking away from his acumen or his IQ, but he's not necessarily known for his intelligence as much as other aspects of his personalities. That's why I kind of lean more towards the title aspect of things, and we're going to give some more facts on that as to why we kind of lean more towards the title, right, or the rank. Another one is Alaroye, which means owner of the title, kind of referring to him as the general, right? Because if you look online, sometimes you'll see he's known as the general, or he has to do with war and things like that. Just because he is such an active Eshu, and due to the fact that he has a lot to do with communication and whatnot, he may be able to cause a war just by causing miscommunication between two human beings. And, that could be detrimental in itself. So it could be referring to that. So we have he who comes with title, or the possible owner of the title, right? Then we have another one, is Laroye, which means he who comes covered or with blood. And this could be making reference to the fact that he is the most popular Eshu and the one that probably receives the most sacrifices amongst the Eshus in general. And, when you're an Eshu, and not only an Eshu, but usually the first Eshu, you can only imagine the amount of sacrifices this spirituality has received after thousands of years of practice, being the most popular one, at least within the Afro-Cuban tradition. So a couple different ways to define the name or translate it is he who comes with title, or the owner of the title, or he who comes covered with blood, right? Or he who presents himself with blood. So that's one way of looking at it. And we talked about him being the most common and eating the most. When we look at the aspect of the general, it's very commonly spoken about. And another thing I wanted to touch on with the general aspect of things, and this is why you really have to surf the web to a certain degree, and once you get to a level where you've experienced and filtered through so much Ifa information, you can kind of pick out what's positive and what's real and what isn't. And the other day, I actually have a friend on Facebook, or someone I'm affiliated with or associated with, and they actually put out a traditional video about the land of Oshobo. And the land of Oshobo, apparently its first leader, even though there's various Odu of Ifa that speaks about Oshobo and the great pact that was made at the river with the fish and Oshun and all these other things, I was unaware that the name of the person or the king that actually made that pact, his name was Laroye. And I'm going by what I saw, right? And this is a guy with pretty credible information. He's very experienced in Yoruba culture, and he's pretty much immersed himself in it, and he has been in Nigeria various times, and just the fact that he put it up lets me know it's pretty legit. So when I saw this video and I saw how it was speaking about the history of Oshobo and the pact with Oshun and the fish and the blessings that came and when the river filled up, and that the king or the person who made the pact, his name was Laroye. And it's ironic because when you look up Eshu Laroye on the internet or just modern information, the first thing you see is that, it says that he has a lot to do with Oshun, or he's very affiliated with Oshun, or him and Oshun are best friends. And it's interesting because you look at some of these energies and, these paths, and they're nothing more than reincarnation. So I'm not sure if possibly this Eshu has a lot to do with that person or that king that ultimately was deified. I'm not sure if he was a child of Eshu or he was just affiliated with the Eshu deity prior to Oshobo becoming such an Oshun-centric town. But it is interesting because, Laroye means he who owns the title or he who is the general. And then we're seeing a very prominent figure named Laroye in Yoruba history who's associated with Oshun, kind of like Eshu Laroye commonly is known as. And then, this correlation between king, general, this path, this name, and the deities they're affiliated with. It's very interesting. So more than likely the same guy. And that's why his name is what it is, and he's affiliated with Oshun the way he is. So I found that very interesting, and that's why you have to delve in, and you begin to make these connections between all these stories and deities and all these different things. And it's really beautiful because it's just confirmations of our faith here in the New World and what was able to actually come over. So definitely wanted to share that. He's associated with the four corners. For the people who have received him, they understand what that really means. And it makes sense because this is the most common point where humanity kind of interacts, right? They say every interaction is a four corners, or, the crossroads of life, etc. It makes sense why he'd be associated with this because he is the Eshu that really has propagated himself and expanded himself the most. 9 out of 10 people, a lot of people have this Eshu path. And it makes sense why he's popular and well known because he has so many children and he has so many devotees. So that may be why he's associated with the four corners. And apart from that, he has a lot to do with communication. So we talked about that. And even when we're talking about the four corners, another point that a lot of people don't realize when we're talking about Laroye is that if he is associated with the four corners, he's also associated heavily with Ipako, or the back of the neck, right? Eshu Ipako or Eshu Nipako, as it's known, because that is actually the four corners of the body. So if we're saying that Eshu Laroye is associated with the four corners, we also have to associate him with this part of the body. And probably the most prominent part or manifestation of Eshu in the body is Ipako, which is the back of the head or the back neck area, that which is unknown and prehistoric, right? So if he's associated with the four corners, like all Eshus are, but him more predominantly, he's definitely associated with this part of the body. And it's ironic because this part of the body has a lot to do with control of how we speak, how we interact with people, behaviors, things like that. It has to do with the prehistoric man, and what those characteristics and habits were. So it makes a lot of sense why he'd be associated with that as well, because he has so much to do with communication and interaction. When we talk about Eshu Laroye, there's various signs that speak about him, but a very prominent sign that speaks about him is Otura Diu, or Otura Irete. And it speaks of a story where basically there was a father and son, right? One's name was Eshu Laroye, and the other's name was Eshu Larillo, or the son. Eshu Laroye and his wife really didn't see eye to eye, and due to the fact that she didn't necessarily recognize him as a consistent father, somebody who was really an example, she decided to separate her son away from the father, thus causing this separation and ultimately a frustration for Eshu Laroye, to the point where Eshu Laroye started cursing the town where he lived, and it carried on like this for quite some time. So as Eshu Larillo started growing up, he started wondering who his father was, started yearning for that paternal affection and just interaction. And he went to his mother and said, I really want to know who my father is, and I'd like to interact with him. And she looked at him and she said, the decision's yours, but if you want to find your father, go and speak to Orula, or to the Babalao. And when he did that, Orumila explained that there was an ebo that had to be done. There's various versions of it, but there was a goat involved, there was a rooster involved, there were some ibas filled with certain ingredients. And he said, you're going to walk to the next town over with these things on you, and the rest will be revealed. So when Eshu Laroye made his way into the town, he saw that people were starving. There was an epidemic. It was very negative. But he came to a point in the town where he saw a man basically working on top of a spiritual pot, cursing everybody and maintaining everybody in a state of fear and horror. And what ended up happening is that, Eshu Laroye saw him and he confronted him and he said, "Who are you?" And he said, "My name is Eshu Laroye." And the Legua looked at him. He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I'm looking for my father. My mother and Orula told me to come here with these offerings and I might be able to find my father." And Eshu Laroye basically broke down in tears and embraced his son, received the offering, shared it with everybody, and peace came through their embrace and their reconnection. So if we interpret, Eshu Laroye for the people who have him identified, it's an Ifa, it's a paternal Eshu. It's an Eshu that had a past, an Eshu that was able to overcome themselves and become better human beings, better men, better, fathers or parents in general, because obviously women can receive this path of Eshu as well. And, we have to be very careful for the people who have this Eshu, very careful with vengeance and anger and things like that, because it causes them to make decisions and to hurt people when they might not be deserving of that. It speaks of reconnections. It speaks of an Eshu that cares a lot about children. And that's why, Eshu pretty much, I'm not saying I think it should be made a habit of, but, when you would walk into a house and a kid would randomly take a piece of candy from Eshu, the old santeros would be like, it's with Elegua, it's no issues. And it really goes back to this path because he loves children so much. And, just the interaction he wanted to have with his children. He can help better relationships through, advice and learning and things like that. Very linked to Ifa. So these are all the things that this Eshu has to do with as well. Paternity, transitions, maturity, patience, benevolence, all of these different things. It's not always negative when it comes to Eshu. And he was able to overcome this situation and realize what he was doing wasn't right, and better it for the betterment of the community, really. So that's a beautiful thing. So it speaks of that, right? And when we talk about Eshu Laroye, these are a couple of the things that we could touch on. There's always going to be more, but when it comes to offerings as well with him, it's basically the same as the other Eshus. When basically the same characteristics, same numbers, multiples of 3, 21, etc. And this is really the base information we have on Eshu Laroye up until this point. Of course, if you have any further questions or anything about him, please go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll go ahead and delve deeper if we have anything further to expound upon. But really good base of information here on the things we've touched on. A lot of interesting things I don't feel are really readily, accessible on the internet, or at least in one place where one person can find it. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get all this good information and put it in one video so you can have a good base of understanding, with it. So this is Eshu Laroye, guys. Joseph Babaifa here. I want to say thank you. The channel, oh my God, we're at 1,500 subscribers. That's incredible that many people care about what I have to say or what Ifa has to say. Really, we're nothing more than instruments over here. So, keep subscribing. We're coming out with new videos all the time. And the next video we're going to be coming out with is Eshu Alaguana. For all the people who have that Eshu, definitely want to check in, or those who want to learn about it, definitely the video you want to watch for it. We're going to try and put as much information in it as we can, right? Guys, like, share, subscribe, comment. Really appreciate you guys. All the people that come and visit me at the Botánica, all the wonderful words you guys have to say. It's very humbling. I hope everybody's having a great Christmas season, even with all that we're going through. And, our doors here at Botánica Candles and More are always open. Whether it's a consultation, whether, it's a hi, or just, Merry Christmas or whatever it is. We've really become a community over here, and this YouTube channel is taken off in a way I never really expected. But, it happens, right? When you walk the right path with Ifa and you show humility and you really provide knowledge to people who are trying to grow, Rumila puts his followers in a place where they can feel safe and they can really progress. And I'm just happy that some people have found their way to us so we can really help them achieve that. And that's all the satisfaction we need. So from Botánica Candles and More, Joseph Babaifa here, video on Eshu Laroye, new video on Eshu Alaguana coming up. And guys, God bless you. Happy holidays. Thank you. Boruboya.